report, Vladimir Putin does not seem like one who would make idle threats. What are your thoughts on his pledge of a nuclear response if NATO supports Ukraine?
Well, first of all, let's start by saying we're not going to be bullied by Vladimir Putin. We're the United States of America. We need to be very clear-eyed about who he is. He's a madman, and we need to treat him as such. I do want to point out one thing, that we should really give a shout out to the thousands of people who showed up for the Navalny funeral and to honor him. I think that the United States of America needs to understand that when we have moments like this, where people are petitioning their government and standing up to brutality like this, that we need to support them. So we need to be united across the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, everyone, in recognizing people who stand up for greater freedoms. They're doing it in their own country, and this is something that Republicans should absolutely be applauding, because we like it when people stand up for democracy, human rights, the rule of law.
Absolutely. Now, let's pivot to an upcoming meeting between former President Trump and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The meeting is scheduled to take place in about a week at Mar-a-Lago. The New York Times, of course, putting their leftist spin on it. Their article reads, quote, "Mr. Orban has been at odds with the leaders of other NATO and European Union nations over the war in Ukraine and has been assailed by critics as steering Hungary towards authoritarianism. Like Mr. Trump, he has sometimes appeared sympathetic to or admiring of President Vladimir Putin of Russia." Rick, what do you make of this meeting? What do you think about all of these headlines already characterizing this? I mean, nobody is idolizing or admiring Putin. You know, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, the left with their charges of Russia, Russia, Russia on everything is really, honestly, undermining our democracy, if there's anything that is undermining our democracy. But let's put this in perspective. This is Maggie Haberman from the New York Times, a well-known left journalist, and she has been at odds with the idea that Europe should crack down on immigration. She's so wrong, and the New York Times have been so wrong on this issue. They were cheerleaders for not having borders in Europe, to the point, let's be very clear, that they were on the wrong side of history when the EU shrank. The UK decided to get out of the EU because of immigration, because Chancellor Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany at the time, was hell-bent on opening borders and having more immigrants come into Europe, and they weren't vetting them. This is a lesson for American conservatives. The EU got smaller and weaker because of border weakness. The immigration issue was front and center for Brexit. And the New York Times and Maggie Haberman and all of the rest of the European globalists were on the wrong side of trying to shame people like Viktor Orban and the Hungarians, who were standing up and saying, look, we want to just have rules. We want to not be able to just take down our borders and push immigrants in. We want to know who's coming in, and we want to have borders. This is not about not being generous or nice. This is about having rules. If you don't have rules, you don't have a country.
And Rick, we have less than a minute left, but I have to ask you this question. People that say they only watch CNN or they only watch MSNBC or only read the New York Times, they're living kind of in this silo and not getting factual information. Is that an insurmountable issue for a lot of Republicans out there running for office? Because it is almost a daunting task to get the truth out there.
Yeah, a couple of quick points. I think you've got to have leaders in Washington who ignore the media narrative. We, on the outside of Washington, have to stop asking Washington to reform itself. They're never going to reform itself. They love it. They love the system. And so we need to send courageous people who aren't going to listen to the globalists, because actually they're wrong. Look at our own border. It's a disaster because we don't have rules. We should have learned the lesson from Brexit and the Hungarians, and they were right. And now we have to be strong and close our borders and make sure that we don't listen to people like the New York Times.